Hello, I'm Carlton Van Putten, founder and CEO of PayRent. Welcome to the Keys to Success podcast, where we unlock the secrets to smarter investments, smoother tenant management, and bigger profits, one episode at a time. Ready to master your property game? Let's dive in.
Welcome to Keys to Success, unlocking smarter rent collection. Today we're diving deep into something that could seriously save you money and headaches as a landlord. We're talking about ACH transfers and how they stack up against those popular payment apps like Zelle and Venmo. Honestly, what we're going to cover might completely change the way you think about collecting rent.
You're absolutely right. As easy as those apps seem, there are some hidden risks and costs you might not be aware of that could really impact your profits. Understanding how ACH works can make your whole rental process smoother, safer, and way more profitable.
Okay, so let's break this down. For anyone listening who might not be totally familiar with ACH transfers, can you explain exactly what they are?
Sure. Think of it as a kind of digital handshake between banks. Basically, it moves money securely from one account to another, and it's probably already a bigger part of your life than you realize. Things like direct deposit for your paycheck or those automatic bill payments you set up, those are all using ACH.
So it's not some brand new tech that's going to be buggy or anything.
Nope, not at all. ACH has actually been around for decades, and it's super reliable. It's like the behind-the-scenes workhorse of our entire financial system, quietly keeping things moving.
That's good to know. But why should landlords specifically care about ACH? What's the advantage over other ways of collecting rent?
Well, let's start with those pesky transaction fees. With credit cards, you're often looking at 2–3% per transaction, and even those popular apps can sneak in hidden costs. But with ACH, the average fee is only about $1. So let's say you have 10 rental units. That's potentially saving you $10 to $20 per unit every month. Over a whole year, that really starts to add up.
Wow, you're right. That's money that could be going right back into your business or even just straight into your pocket. I hadn't really thought of it like that before. But what about the security side of things? Isn't it a little risky to have your tenants' bank information stored online?
I get why you'd be concerned about that. But ACH actually has multiple layers of security built in. First, there's encryption to protect your data while it's being transferred, so it's like it's being sent in a coded message. Then you have multi-factor authentication to make sure it's really you and not some imposter trying to access your account. And on top of all that, the whole system is regulated by really strict rules and regulations. It's far safer than dealing with cash or checks, that's for sure.
So are you saying it's even safer than using those apps we talked about earlier? I know tons of people who use Zelle or Venmo for everything these days.
Those apps definitely have their uses, but honestly, they're not really ideal when it comes to rent collection. Let's take Zelle, for instance. The money gets transferred instantly, which sounds awesome at first, but that also means it's gone forever once you hit send. If you accidentally send it to the wrong person, or even worse, get scammed, it's almost impossible to get your money back.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem. There's really no room for error there. What about Venmo? I feel like that's a lot of people's go-to app for sending money.
Venmo can seem really tempting because it feels free and easy, but remember those hidden costs we were talking about? They can definitely hit you with fees for things like instant transfers, or if you're using it for business transactions, which can take a bite out of your profits. And here's another thing to think about. Venmo's settings are set up so that, by default, all your transactions are public. Do you really want your tenants' rent payments and their financial details out there for anyone to see? I'm not sure that's great for anyone's privacy.
I hadn't even thought about that. That's definitely a red flag for both landlords and tenants. So are you saying we should steer clear of those apps altogether when it comes to rent collection?
Well, I think they're fine for the occasional small transaction between friends you really trust. But when it comes to something as important as rent, you need security, reliability, and privacy. And honestly, ACH is the clear winner in all those categories.
Okay, so it sounds like we've established that ACH is safer, cheaper, and generally more reliable than using those apps. But how do landlords actually go about implementing ACH? It seemed like it might be a bit complicated to set up.
It's actually a lot easier than you might think. That's where these dedicated rent collection platforms like Parent really shine. They've basically taken all the complexity out of ACH and made it really user-friendly for both landlords and tenants.
Parent, huh? Tell me more about how that works.
Imagine you have this awesome virtual assistant who handles all your rent collection for you. You simply put in your tenant's information once, and Parent takes care of everything else. It automatically takes the rent out of their account on the due date, sends out reminders so you don't have to, and even calculates any late fees if someone's a little behind. All of this happens securely and efficiently through the ACH network.
So it's not just about collecting the rent itself, it's about automating the whole process and getting rid of all those little manual tasks that take up so much time.
You got it. And it's not just good for landlords either. Tenants also like having the flexibility to pay rent online, track their payment history, and even set up those automatic payments so they never have to worry about missing a due date.
It really sounds like everyone wins with a system like that. But what about landlords who are used to doing things the old-fashioned way, with checks or money orders? How do you convince them to make the switch?
I'd ask them to think about all the time they're spending now dealing with those old methods. Processing checks, going back and forth to the bank, dealing with payments that don't go through. It's a lot of extra work. With Parent and ACH, you can skip all that and use that valuable time to focus on other things in your business, like finding great new tenants or making improvements to your properties.
It's all about working smarter, not harder, right?
Exactly. And remember, this isn't just about convenience. It's also about protecting your rental income and building a more professional and reliable rental business. It shows you're serious and on top of things.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head there. It's all about streamlining things and freeing up your time and energy so you can focus on the bigger picture.
This is all making a lot of sense to me now, but I want to go back to ACH for a minute. The transcript mentions something about encryption. Can you break down what exactly that means and how it keeps my information safe?
Of course. Encryption is basically like putting all your financial data in a super secure lockbox. It takes all that information and scrambles it up while it's moving between banks, so it's virtually impossible for someone to intercept it and actually read it. It's kind of like sending a secret message that only the person it's meant for can decode.
Okay, so it's like a digital shield protecting my money as it travels through the internet. That definitely puts my mind at ease. Now, the transcript also mentioned multi-factor authentication. Is that another layer of security on top of the encryption? You got it. Think of multi-factor authentication, like having 2 locks on your front door. It basically means you need to provide 2 or more pieces of information to prove who you are. Usually it's something you know, like a password, and something you have, like a code sent to your phone. This makes it way harder for someone who's not authorized to get into your account, even if they somehow manage to get their hands on your password.
So it's like having a security guard posted at the door of my bank account, making sure no one sneaks in who's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Like that analogy. But speaking of banks, how does all of this tie in with those PCI DSS standards that were mentioned earlier?
Yes. So PCI DSS stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. It's basically a set of rules that all businesses that deal with credit card information have to follow. And even though ACH transactions don't use credit cards directly, a lot of rent collection platforms, like the one we talked about, Parent, handle other kinds of payments too. So seeing that they comply with those PCI DS standards is a good sign that they take security seriously and are committed to keeping your data safe.
That makes sense. It's definitely good to know there are these industry-wide measures in place to keep our sensitive information protected. But let's get back to the benefits for landlords specifically. We've talked about cost savings and how secure ACH is, but what about the predictability it offers?
That's another huge plus. With ACH, you know exactly when those rent payments are going to land in your account. It usually takes 1 to 3 business days for the transaction to go through, which makes it much easier to plan your finances. You can budget for expenses, make investments, or just sleep soundly at night knowing the rent money will be there when you need it.
It's like having a financial safety net, especially for landlords who depend on that rental income to cover their own expenses. No more wondering when that rent check will show up or if it's actually going to clear.
You got it. It takes all the guesswork out of it and cuts down on the stress of dealing with late payments or bounce checks. And remember, most ACH platforms let you set up automatic late fee calculations and send out those reminders, which makes the whole rent collection process even smoother.
So it's not just about getting paid on time. It's about having a system in place that takes care of those little headaches and keeps everything running like a well-oiled machine. What other benefits are there when it comes to efficiency?
Well, just think about all the time you probably spend now collecting rent.
Yeah.
Dealing with paper checks, running to the bank, sending out reminders, chasing down late payers, it can feel like you're constantly running around in circles.
Oh, tell me about it. It's a huge time suck, especially when you've got multiple properties to manage.
Exactly. And ACH just eliminates all that hassle. Once you set up those recurring payments, the system pretty much takes over from there. The rent is taken out of your tenants' accounts automatically and lands right in yours. No more manual processes, no more wasting your precious time. You're free to focus on other parts of your business, like finding new tenants or sprucing up your properties.
It almost sounds too good to be true. But what about tenants who might be a little resistant to change? Some people are just more comfortable with the old ways of doing things.
I get that, I really do. But honestly, in my experience, once tenants see how convenient and secure online payments are, and how easy it is to keep track of their payment history, they're usually pretty quick to jump on board. And let's be real, most people already handle their finances online anyway. Paying rent this way is just a natural extension of that.
That's a really good point. And it's not like we're asking them to do something super complicated. Most of these rent collection platforms are designed to be pretty user-friendly.
Exactly. They're meant to be intuitive and easy to use, even for people who aren't that tech savvy. And don't forget about the added benefit of reducing errors. With ACH, there's no chance of losing a check, putting in the wrong amount, or trying to decipher someone's handwriting. Everything's digital, accurate, and easy to track.
So it's not just convenient for everyone involved, it also makes your business look more professional and organized.
Precisely. It shows your tenants that you're a serious landlord who values efficiency and security. And that can go a long way in building a good relationship with your tenants, which is something we all want, right?
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about how secure ACH is, the benefits of using a platform like Parent, and how this can make the whole rental experience better for both landlords and tenants. But before we wrap things up, is there anything else landlords should know when they're thinking about making the switch to ACH?
Yeah, there's definitely one thing to keep in mind. It's that not all rent collection platforms are created equal, It's really important to do your research before you choose one. Look for a platform that's got really strong security features, pricing that's clear and upfront, and an interface that's easy for both you and your tenants to use.
So it's not as simple as just picking the first platform you see that offers ACH.
Exactly. Don't rush into it. Take some time to read reviews from other landlords, compare the different features, and make sure the platform you choose really fits your specific needs and the way you like to do things.
That's good advice. Better to be thorough from the beginning than to run into problems later on. Speaking of other options, we talked about wire transfers a little earlier. Can you remind me how those are different from ACH and why they might not be the best fit for collecting rent?
Sure. Wire transfers are known for being really fast. The money usually gets transferred within a few hours, sometimes even minutes. But that speed comes with a price tag. Wire transfer fees are a lot higher than ACH fees, often around $20 to $30 per transaction.
Ouch. That's a big difference.
And here's the other thing. Wire transfers, just like Zelle, are irreversible. Once you send that money, there's no getting it back. So if there's a mistake or you have a disagreement with your tenant, you're kind of stuck.
So probably not the best choice for regular rent payments, where there's always a chance for a little mix-up or disagreement.
Right. Wire transfers are better suited for one-time payments where you need that money to move fast, and there's not much chance for errors, like maybe a down payment on a property.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. You've got to pick the right tool for the job, as they say. So to wrap things up, what's the main takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with today?
The world of rent collection is definitely changing, and ACH is leading the way. It's secure, it saves you money, and it's an efficient way to manage that rental income. It frees up your time and gives you peace of mind. And with platforms like Parent out there, it's never been easier to set up and start using ACH.
It's all about being smarter and making things easier for yourself, and in the end, building a more successful and sustainable rental business.
Exactly. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about the different payment options out there, the better decisions you can make for yourself and your tenants.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into ACH transfers for landlords, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with? Something to think about as they navigate the world of rent collection.
Here's something to ponder. If ACH can make rent collection so much easier and more secure, imagine what it could do in other parts of your financial life. Maybe streamlining payments to vendors, receiving security deposits, or even just paying your own bills. There are so many possibilities.
That's a fantastic point. It's all about taking what we've learned today and seeing how we can apply it to create a more efficient and secure financial life for ourselves. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into ACH transfers and sharing all your expertise. Until next time, remember, the key to success is often hidden in those little details. And sometimes those details are as simple as understanding how powerful something like an ACH transfer can be.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Keys to Success. I invite you to check out past episodes and follow us on your favorite podcast platform to get notified when new ones are released. And when you're ready to simplify managing your properties, be sure to visit us at www.payrent.com.